Hey guys, Dereck and Sarah here. We're here to talk about something really important today, which is fire safety.
We're here with a local fire chief who's going to give us some top tips on how to keep your home and family safe.
Hi, my name is Fred Gilstorff. I'm the fire chief with Peninsula Township Fire Department. We're here today with Sarah and Dereck going over some fire safety tips. We're going to start out here in the kitchen. One of the big things in the kitchen is the stove area. Anytime anybody's cooking, we want to make sure that we're safe while we're cooking, especially when we're around younger kids and people that could potentially spill things on them. So when we're cooking, we want to make sure that the handle's turned in. Whoops, that way. Make sure the handle's turned in that way, right? So it cannot be reached by little ones reaching up and grabbing it and possibly spilling hot liquid food on them and burning them very bad. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a lid handy in case for some reason the food that we're cooking catches on fire, a grease fire, anything of that nature. The simplest thing to do is shut the burner off and simply slide the lid over, which cuts the oxygen flow to the food and will stop the burning process. So a couple little safety tips there for that. Another thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a home fire extinguisher somewhere in the kitchen. You could put it underneath the sink, you could put it underneath the stove, just somewhere where you can access it in case the fire does start in the kitchen. These can be purchased at Lowe's, Home Depot, any hardware store will have these. And you can reach out to your local fire department to get specific training on how to use them. This extinguisher right here, it's very simple. It has a pin right here. You simply pull the pin, squeeze the trigger, and sweep the fire. So you pull, aim, squeeze, sweep, and you just sweep it back and forth. The easiest thing to do is simply put the lid on the fire and not have to use one of these because they do create quite the mess.
And you don't have one of these handy. What is the quickest thing you can do to help stop the fire?
The simplest thing is to remove it shut the heat off, okay. Right? Remove it, get it off the heat, let it cool down, okay? And like I said, put the lid on. There are commercial blankets out there for like grease fires. They come in, you can find them at a hardware store. Yeah, so you can buy them. Them simply you throw over it and cover it, right? But sometimes when a fire happens in the kitchen, people get a little erratic, get a little worked up, right? So they're not necessarily doing things smoothly. They could potentially cause it to spill and then spread the fire other places in the house.
Right.
If that's the case, when that happens and you can't control it, remove all your family members out of the house and simply call 911 and we will come and take care of the issue. But we want to make sure we get everybody out of the house.
And we're coming into the living room towards the fireplace. So Chief, let us know, do you have any tips for anybody who has a wood burning fireplace in their home?
Yeah, sure. With wood-burning fireplaces, they are a big contributing factor to fires in the winter months, right? Everybody's trying to stay warm, stay nice and toasty, right? The big thing with wood-burning fireplaces, you want to make sure that you're burning good seasoned wood, make sure it's dry, maintaining the amount that you put in there. You don't want to overload the furnace and get it the fireplace way too hot, right? And another thing, I would highly advise that people get the chimney checked once a year, get it swept, have somebody come out that's certified and look and check and make sure that everything is intact and is properly functioning, right? Because there are times, we've seen it numerous times where the flute cracks, which allows fire to get out of the actual chimney and into other areas, and then it starts to spread. So by simply making sure that somebody comes and checks the fireplace on a regular basis, at least annually, you should eliminate that potential.
If your smoke detector is older than your teenager, it's time for an upgrade.
How often should you change your smoke detectors?
So smoke detectors are usually designed for 10 years of life, right? So every 10 years. Typically when you install a smoke detector or put a brand new one up, you should date it. That way you'll be able to keep track of how long it's been there, right? And there's also a manufacturer's tag on the bottom of it that shows what the date of manufacture is. So anytime 10 years after that, you should be replacing them.
Okay, and then obviously we need to replace the batteries when you hear it beeping, but if I wanted to test it, I mean, what do you just press a button?
Yep,
or?
So you'd simply, in this case, you'd have to get up on a little lift. There's a button right there in the center, just give it a little nudge, let go. You heard that chirp, that means it's working. And now it's going the sound on through the rest of the house, which is very loud. But you should do that at least once a month to make sure and check that, right? You should change the batteries. We have smoke detectors out there now that have a 10-year battery on it, which is great for older folks that can't reach up there and change them and things of that nature. So they don't have to do that often. But there still are smoke detectors out there where you need to change batteries every 6 months. So the simple process is when you change your clocks, change your batteries.
Oh, good advice.
Most of your local fire departments, if you have issues with them, a lot of us have smoke detectors that can be given out that are free of charge. We'll actually even come and install them if somebody needs help. So yeah, them are through a state program, through the state fire marshal's office, because we find that the majority of fires that happen and the fatalities that happen from them, there are no working smoke detectors in the home.
Oh wow.
So there's been a big push over the last 4 or 5 years to really get out there and get a lot of smoke detectors installed.
Oh, wow.
And just for reference, this one here is also a carbon monoxide detector. So that's great to have. You want to have a monoxide detector on every level of your home. It's an odorless gas that can kill people. So having that integrated in that system is a good thing. Carbon monoxide could come from insufficient combustion process in the stove, right? So maybe it's getting too much gas, not enough air. It's not functioning properly. Same with your furnace. If it's not functioning properly and it's still running, it will emit carbon monoxide.
Okay.
Same for any gas-fired appliance, whether it's a dryer, water heater, any of them type things, right? They all have ventilations that you have to pay attention to. One of the big fire makers is typically a dryer, right? The dryer, again, like I spoke to earlier, has to exhaust or vent, right? So people should get in the habit of making sure that they're clearing their lint traps, right? Making sure and getting this off after every use. Make sure you get that nice and clean, okay? There's also on the back side, there's some piping that runs to an outside, cover that allows whatever's left for the lint to remove from the home. Sometimes that'll get blocked up too. And much like, we talked about exhausts and things of that nature, if that gets blocked, that's not allowing things to blow past, and that could build up the lint, which when that lint builds up, it could potentially catch on fire and catch clothes in the dryer on fire. Check that outside outlet at least every 3 or 4 months, just to make sure there's not a buildup on that. I mean, if you start seeing a lot of lint build up after you're doing your drying your clothes, you might want to check and make sure that something else isn't going on with the appliance, right? Or just if you have a lot of lint buildup because your clothes are producing it, then you need to check it more often.
So now we're walking up into the bedroom. So what do you have for safety tips as far as your sleeping areas?
So the biggest thing that we find with bedroom areas is the fact that people don't sleep with the doors closed. We want to make sure that we're closing the doors, because this is the barrier. If there's a fire on the outside, this is the barrier that could potentially save your life. Because even though these are only rated for a short period, they're still going to give you time to escape, whether out the window or another passageway, right? The big thing in bedroom areas is making sure that you know your different ways out, right? Everybody walks into their bedroom the same way, typically day in, day out, right? They never think of, oh, where am I going to go if I can't go that way and there's a fire in my house?
Right.
And people should be practicing this with their whole family, right? Especially young kids. They should be practicing on a regular basis of how to get out of the house in case there's a fire. If the smoke detector goes off, what do I do? Right? They have a specific route that they should go, right? They learn that, if their doors are closed, right, which we preach that the doors are closed and the smoke detectors are going off. They want to go to the doors, right, because that's going to be their normal travel to get out of the house, but they're also going to want to feel the door with the back of their hands, right? Make sure if it's hot, they're not going that way. They gotta go a different way, right? So that's where you come into like windows, right? You wanna make sure that your window's open. You wanna make sure your kids know how to open your windows, right? So in this instance here, there's a significant drop, right? This window here, not so much, maybe 8 feet, but that's still scary for a child, right? So families could consider rescue ladders. Again, you can get them at any hardware store, and they basically clip on once the window's open, and you use it to go just like a ladder, just straight down, right? So obviously it's something that would take a lot of practice. They need to get used to it, right? Because doing it the first time, when there's an emergency, they're going to be extremely scared. But if they've practiced it previously, there's a higher probability of them successfully getting out and being safe, right? And another thing, when families are working with this plan, they want to make sure that they have an area that they can go to, right? So they tell the kids, if there's a fire, you just make sure you get out, right? You go to this meeting place, a tree in the front yard, a neighbor's house, whatever they determine, right? But they all know what it is, and that's the process that they're going to do. If they're the first one out, go to the neighbor, call 911, right? We need help. There's a fire in our house. Kids should be practicing knowing their address, right? Knowing where they're kind of calling from a little bit, but focusing on their address. But I would just say that they need to really focus on the smoke detectors that are in their home, because they're designed to awaken them, get them situated, and get them going towards an exit out of the home, along with the rest of their family members. So that's the priority, and that's what we're seeing at the state level as far as people dying in fires. The smoke detectors either are non-existent or they're not working.
Okay.
Right, so put them in place, check the batteries. It's that simple. When you have mailboxes in front, I think county ordinance states that you need to make sure that the numbers are on the mailbox and they kind of contrast to the color of the mailbox, so they stick out. We'd prefer that they're reflective. Actually, the fire department sells reflective green signs with the numbers on it. People can come to us and purchase them if they'd like. We'll help install them as well. They really do come in handy for us locating addresses, because they really pop when you're going down the road. So the other thing is with the house numbers, because everybody's required to have numbers on their house as well, they should also contrast. We find a lot of times that the numbers are either hard to see or we can't see them at all. Another reason to have the green reflective sign. So we make sure we're at the house that called us, because a lot of times the address is hard to find.
So why do you think it's important to know where your electrical panels are?
There's a lot of appliances that are in your home. You got outlets in the wall, you've got a lot of things that run off electrical power. There are some times where you'll start to have issues with some of that, whether it's lights flickering, maybe a outlet starting to smolder, things of that nature. You want to be able to locate your electrical panels. You have electrical panel here. They're typically marked on the inside as far as what they control. To be able to shut that down and stop that burning process, especially if it's an electrical outlet in a wall, if you can do that safely without hindering yourself or putting yourself in jeopardy, it's always best to shut that power off to that to stop the burning process. That way that fire won't potentially travel in a wall. I mean, you're still going to call us because we need to check it out and make sure that everything's good. But you always want to know where your shut-offs are in order to control some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and typically with electrical fire, that's kind of like a burning insulation smell, right?
Yeah, it can be a little stinky. It's like a burning insulation, rubber type of smell. It's very distinguishable. Okay. As far as knowing whether it's electrical or it's something else. Yeah. Because once you kill the power and you kill the feed, a lot of times the problem either calms down or goes away. But still have us, especially if it's fire related, still have the fire department come and check and make sure everything's safe and sound.
Yeah, sure. Good advice. Yep. So we're here in the mechanical room. I know we got a lot of things in here that are hot. I assume probably could start a fire. What have you seen? What do you recommend?
So Yeah, a lot of times in the mechanical rooms, which typically located in the basement or in a separate room, they're designed to be separated from the house because of the potential fire danger. Most houses will have at least an hour rated wall, things of that nature, to where a potential fire from this area can't extend into the rest of the house, right?
Sure.
So the big thing with these appliances, you got a couple water heaters here, you got a boiler type system here. All these things get hot, right? So you want to make sure that you keep things clear of them. Combustibles, you know, cardboards, flammables, things of that nature. You don't want to be storing that in not the utility room, but the mechanical room. You want to keep things away, right, as best you can. Make sure you're having a certified technician look at it once a year, making sure it's functioning properly, right?
Yeah.
So, because these can start fires. Again, you can see here, there are plenty of exhaust piping, so we would want to go on the outside of this home, find where that exits, and make sure that there's not snow blocking it, things of that nature. Trust me, the people that live here, if it was blocked, it would stall that and it would not run properly.
So when I was growing up, the house across the street from me burned down. That's a day I'll never forget. It was huge. I remember how devastating it was for that family. You know, watching that house burn to the ground was just terrible. They lost everything. You know, so it's one of those things that it seems like it's never going to happen to you. You know, but it's very real and it can. So taking some of these steps to try to mitigate that risk is really important.
We want to say thank you to Fire Chief Fred Gilstorff for his time and for his top safety tips, and also for his service to our community. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks
we appreciate
for having me. I
it.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's very important. Please follow the tips and be fire safe. Any questions, contact your local fire department.
You have less than 2 minutes to escape a house fire. Are you prepared?